I stepped into the ballroom under crystal lights and polished marble, the kind of place where confidence was expected and weakness was hunted. I smiled as I greeted people I barely knew, my voice steady on the surface, trembling underneath. My excitement felt forced, like a borrowed jacket that didn't quite fit. Every laugh around me sounded sharper than it should have, every glance lingering a second too long. The mood shattered when a heated argument erupted nearby. My friends clashed with strangers over something trivial that suddenly turned ugly. Voices rose. Egos flared. I tried to step in, to calm things down, but it was as if I didn't exist. I spoke, offered reason, offered compromise. My words fell straight to the floor. No one even turned their head toward me. Then it happened. The betrayal I never saw coming. Someone I trusted, someone who had once praised my judgment in private, repeated my suggestion out loud, twisting it into a joke. They laughed first. Others followed. The sound sliced through me, clean and precise, like a blade finding its mark. I stood there frozen as my idea was turned into entertainment. Time slowed. I could feel heat rushing into my face, my ears ringing, my hands shaking as I tried to speak. My mouth opened, but my voice cracked. I tried to defend myself, tried to explain, but every word only seemed to invite more amusement. Their smiles widened, and my dignity shrank. In the middle of that noise, another voice surfaced in my head. My auntie's, calm, firm, warning me, long before this night, about trusting people who smiled too easily and listened too little. I remembered how often I had brushed her off, how confidently everyone else had dismissed her wisdom as outdated. Standing there, humiliated, I realized her voice had been right all along. A phone camera flashed, then another. Someone captured me mid-embarrassment. Eyes wide, posture stiff, hands clenched. I didn't even have to check my phone to know where those images were going. By the time I glanced down, notifications were already piling up. The moment was no longer private. It was public property. The room shifted. I felt it in the air. Whispers followed me as I moved. Snickers slipped through polite smiles. Conversations paused when I passed, then resumed in lower tones. I had become invisible and exposed at the same time, reduced to a spectacle no one bothered to acknowledge directly. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. My heart raced like it was trying to escape my body. Shame settled into my muscles, heavy and nauseating. I stood there, surrounded by people, feeling smaller than I ever had in my life. The final blow came during the meeting that followed. Months of preparation, late nights, careful planning, dismissed in seconds. My ideas were mocked openly, reduced to punchlines, my competence questioned as if this humiliation had always been inevitable. Laughter echoed again, louder this time, sealing my position at the bottom. I said nothing. I gathered my things with deliberate calm, my face neutral, my spine straight. No tears, no protest. I walked away quietly, leaving them with their laughter. But inside me, something hardened. As I stepped out into the night, pretending composure, my mind was already moving, counting, remembering, planning. They thought the moment ended there. It didn't. Even now, her voice echoes in my mind, calm, unwavering, cutting through the noise of my own mistakes. My auntie, always watching, always warning, had seen it all before I even noticed. Trust carefully. Watch closely. People rarely show their true colors until it's too late, she would say. And I had laughed, dismissed it, blinded by my own certainty. But memories hit like waves. Childhood betrayals surface first. Innocent moments twisted by those I called friends. Advice ignored, kindness turned against me. I see the little me, standing in the corner of playgrounds and classrooms, trying to speak truth, only to be brushed aside, laughed at, forgotten. That seed of distrust, planted early, had grown quietly, shaping every cautious step I took as I got older. Family dinners, social gatherings, moments that should have been ordinary, they weren't. Subtle dismissals, passing remarks, eyes that skipped me over. Opportunities passed without recognition, my voice always secondary, my presence barely acknowledged. I felt the sting of being invisible even when I was standing right there. School, college. The humiliation only intensified. I excelled. worked tirelessly, yet peers found ways to belittle, to undermine, to publicly humiliate me. The smartest kid in class, the quiet achiever. They called me names, spread rumors, erased my contributions. And I learned then that brilliance was no shield against cruelty. My auntie's advice, which I had often ignored, now seemed prophetic. She had always gone against popular opinion, seen what others refused to see. Her foresight was now glaringly obvious, her quiet voice a lighthouse in the storm of my overlooked efforts. Anger simmers quietly in me, a slow burn built over years. The people who dismissed her wisdom, who laughed at her careful observations, they had also belittled me. I've carried that resentment secretly, letting it ferment into a determined strategic patience. Sleepless nights resurface in memory, hours spent planning, researching, preparing. Every slight, every insult cataloged, every betrayal remembered. These were not idle nights. These were sessions of quiet preparation, building a silent arsenal no one has suspected. Loneliness, isolation, struggles invisible to the world. They left scars. Emotional wounds I had buried now pulse beneath the surface, reminders of endurance and survival. And each one strengthens my resolve, sharpens my instinct to strike when the moment is right. I recall vividly the first time my trust was exploited blatantly. Someone I confided in, someone I believed in, turned my openness into weaponized advantage. That day hardened something inside me, teaching me the power of vigilance, of timing, of retribution. And through it all, my auntie's sacrifices loom large. Her quiet dignity, her relentless moral compass becomes my standard. Every act of injustice I've endured now has a name, a face, a consequence waiting. She did not merely teach me survival, she taught me justice. Her wisdom now fuels me. Every humiliation, every betrayal, every sleepless night is no longer just pain. It is ammunition. And the moral imperative is clear. This time, I will not be ignored. This time, I will make them pay. I started seeing it everywhere once my eyes were open. The negligence, the arrogance, small mistakes brushed off with the laughs, serious errors hidden behind confidence. My peers grew careless because no one ever challenged them. They believed they were untouchable, and that belief made them sloppy. Confrontation crept in slowly, then all at once. It began with microaggressions, interruptions, dismissive glances, jokes at my expense disguised as humor. Then it escalated into outright disrespect. My words were cut off, my presence questioned, my competence tested publicly, as if I owed them proof just to exist in the room. So I stopped reacting. I started observing. Quietly, carefully, I began collecting everything they thought no one noticed. Lies hidden in casual conversations, financial inconsistencies buried in reports, ethical breaches masked by charm and authority. Every detail went into my memory, then into files. Dates, names, numbers, patterns. At night, the tension refused to let me sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, caught between what I knew was right and what I had been forced to swallow for years. Those late nights became planning sessions. No emotion wasted, no impulse trusted, just strategy forming in the dark. Then came the moment that snapped something inside me. A public insult, careless, loud, unnecessary, aimed directly at my auntie. They mocked her caution, her principles, her refusal to play dirty. Laughter followed. And in that instant, humiliation turned into something sharper. Protective anger surged through me, hot and focused. This was no longer just about me. The stress took its toll. Sleep became fragmented. Meals were skipped without noticing. My thoughts raced constantly, replaying conversations, rehearsing outcomes. My body carried the weight of restraint, but my mind stayed alert, sharpening with every insult. That's when I realized my ideas weren't just being ignored anymore. They were being sabotaged. Timelines altered, credit redirected, contributions quietly erased. It wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. And it confirmed what I already knew. I needed precision, not confrontation. Their overconfidence worked against them. While they celebrated prematurely, I studied. I mapped weaknesses the way they had mapped my silence. Who relied on whom? Who cut corners? Who panicked under scrutiny? Every flaw became a potential pressure point. I wasn't alone either. Quietly, I reached out to others who had been dismissed, overlooked, undermined by the same arrogance. Conversations were careful, trust earned slowly, but the pattern was clear. We shared the same scars, and together, we shared information. The first small victories came quietly, an error exposed through official channels, a misleading claim corrected publicly, a document questioned just enough to draw attention. Nothing explosive, nothing reckless, just truth applied with precision. Each success steadied me, my confidence returned, not loud, not reckless, but grounded. Justice no longer felt distant. It felt inevitable, and as they continued to underestimate me, I knew one thing for certain. They had no idea how close they were to losing everything. The phone rang when I least expected it. One call, one voice, and everything I thought I understood shattered instantly. Insider information poured out in a low, urgent tone. Names, timelines, motives. A betrayal so carefully hidden I had never even suspected it. Someone close. Someone who smiled to my face while arranging my downfall behind closed doors. The shock settled cold in my chest, heavier than any insult I had endured. As the truth unfolded, one detail cut deeper than the rest. The person who had mocked me the loudest, the one who made a spectacle of my humiliation, wasn't strong at all. They were exposed, cornered by a weakness they had spent years burying, a flaw that could unravel everything they had built. I felt the balance shift for the first time. Power was no longer theirs alone. Then my auntie called. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but every word landed with surgical precision. She didn't raise her tone. She didn't rush. She laid out a plan step by step, anticipating reactions before I even voiced my doubts. Patience, she said softly. Truth moves slow, but it never misses. Her wisdom cut through my racing thoughts, steadying me, guiding me back to control. In that moment, clarity struck hard. My humiliation had never been personal. I wasn't singled out because I was weak. I was targeted because I was inconvenient. Their arrogance, their greed, their careless hunger for control had created the entire spectacle. I was collateral damage in their game, until now. The proof arrived quietly. A confidential document surfaced, undeniable and damning. Numbers didn't lie. Transactions told a story they could never explain away. Financial mismanagement, hidden beneath polished speeches and fake confidence. As I read it, a surge of energy rushed through me. Not rage, not panic, purpose. Fear crept in next. The risk was real. Exposure could backfire. Retaliation was possible. I sat alone, weighing consequences, my heart pounding. But beneath the fear was something stronger, the thrill of justice standing just within reach. I wasn't reckless. I was ready. Then an unexpected ally stepped forward. Someone I had once overlooked. Someone they had dismissed even faster than they dismissed me. Their support was precise, strategic, invaluable. Pieces began to lock into place. The plan no longer lived only in my head. It was real. Executable. That was when the emotional fog lifted completely. Revenge was no longer about ego or pain. It became a moral necessity. Silence would make me complicit. Action would make me free. I prepared carefully. I rehearsed every confrontation in my mind, imagined every public revelation down to the smallest detail, the pauses, the reactions, the shifting faces. I trained myself to stay calm, to let truth speak louder than anger. I didn't need to shout. I needed to stand firm. By the end, the chaos inside me disappeared. The storm settled into something sharp and controlled. My resolve hardened. Every step forward felt deliberate, unstoppable. They thought I was broken. What they didn't realize was this. I was finally focused. The gala glowed with polished luxury, but beneath the chandeliers, tension snapped like live wire. Every smile felt rehearsed. Every handshake carried suspicion. As I stepped forward, conversations stalled, eyes turning toward me with curiosity that quickly hardened into unease. They sensed something was coming. They just didn't know what. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. I laid everything out slowly, deliberately, evidence stacked with precision. Financial mismanagement, public humiliation, quiet betrayals stitched together into an undeniable pattern. I spoke calmly, each word controlled, letting the truth do the damage they had once tried to do to me. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Faces froze mid-expression as arrogance was stripped bare. The confidence they wore like armor cracked, revealing panic underneath. Whispers turned sharp. Glasses trembled in trembling hands. There was no laughter now. My former critics scrambled first. "That's not what happened," one stammered. Another tried to smile through it, voice shaking as excuses collapsed mid-sentence. Color drained from their faces as reality set in. They weren't in control anymore. Then the legal team stepped in, quiet, efficient, devastating. Contracts were displayed, emails read aloud, recordings played without commentary. Every document validated my claims with brutal clarity. There was nowhere left to hide. No angle left to spin. Phones lit up across the room. Social media exploded as I released carefully chosen statements. No insults, no exaggeration, just facts. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Public opinion shifted in real time, watching truth dismantle reputations they once protected fiercely. From the edge of the room, I saw her, my auntie. Silent, steady, watching with eyes that held pride, not triumph. Her approval wasn't loud, but it grounded me. It reminded me why I stood there at all. The consequences unfolded fast. Accounts frozen, partnerships dissolved, influence evaporated. Those who ignored wisdom, who mocked caution, now paid in currency they valued most: status, power, and credibility. Justice didn't rush. It arrived precisely. I saved one moment for last, a personal confrontation. Quiet, direct. I looked my harshest critic in the eye and spoke the truth they had buried for years. No audience needed. Their composure collapsed instantly. A nod followed. An admission they never thought they'd owe me. And through it all, I never lost my posture. No insults, no raised voice. I stood steady, composed, unshaken. What I delivered wasn't cruelty, it was consequence. My vengeance wasn't chaos, it was crafted, public, unavoidable, and morally just. They once laughed while I stood silent. Now, silence belonged to them. The dust finally settles, and the air feels different. Lighter, charged, yet calm. People who once sneered now nod with respect. Conversations that once skipped me now include my name. The derision that followed me for years has been replaced by cautious acknowledgement. I sense a shift, subtle but undeniable, in every interaction. I take a quiet moment alone to reflect. Lessons crystallize clearly. Patience, careful strategy, and precise timing can topple arrogance far stronger than raw force. Every slight, every insult I endured becomes a marker on the map that led me here. I see now that control and composure are weapons just as sharp as any confrontation. Some of those who tormented me approach, tentative and apologetic. Some words are sincere, others hollow, seeking to patch their bruised pride. I meet them with calm boundaries, offering no easy forgiveness, no impulsive warmth. Respect must be earned anew. Trust is not granted lightly. My auntie stands beside me quietly, watching, her eyes soft yet proud. We share a moment that needs no words. The victory is ours, bittersweet but profoundly satisfying. Years of ignored advice, overlooked wisdom, and silent endurance culminate in this quiet acknowledgement, and her presence makes it real. Recognition arrives organically. Peers approach with opportunities, invitations, and acknowledgement of contributions long buried. Validation comes not from revenge itself, but from the acknowledgement that justice, when executed thoughtfully, cannot be ignored. Emotion settles within me. Closure is no longer a distant hope. It's a tangible weight lifted. I honor the pain I endured, but I do not cling to it. It fuels me, yes, but only as a lesson, not as a burden. I set personal rules etched into my resolve. Never ignore intuition. Always respect wisdom and act decisively when circumstances demand it. The past has taught me the cost of hesitation and the value of measured action. The community has witnessed the consequences of arrogance, and my reputation is solidified, not just as someone who endured, but as someone who navigated adversity with strategy, dignity, and precision. People no longer underestimate me. My presence commands attention, respect, and careful consideration. I document the journey, recounting each betrayal, each plan, each confrontation, for reflection and for the story it will become. Every detail, every lesson, is preserved, not for vanity, but as a record of endurance transformed into triumph. A sense of empowerment washes over me. Silence, patience, and resilience have become my allies. The humiliation that once defined me is gone, replaced by visible, undeniable victory. What was endured in shadows is now celebrated in the light. I am no longer just surviving. I am prevailing. I look straight into the camera, no script in my hands, no anger left in my voice. Ignoring wise advice has a cost, I say quietly. I paid it in humiliation. And I learned it in silence. The words aren't dramatic, but they're heavy. I let them sit because truth doesn't need decoration. I talk about resilience, not the loud kind, not the kind that explodes in the moment, but the kind that absorbs impact and keeps moving. Humiliation didn't break me. It sharpened me. It forced me to slow down, to think, to turn pain into something precise and deliberate. My auntie's face fills my mind as I speak. Her foresight, her calm, her refusal to react emotionally when everyone else demanded noise. Intelligence doesn't scream, I tell the camera. It waits. Her wisdom outperformed rage, and that lesson changed everything. I share what actually worked. Observe before you react. Document everything. Prepare longer than you think you need to. And when you act, do it ethically. My voice stays steady. These aren't motivational lines. They're survival rules written in experience. The screen cuts through memory like a montage. Humiliation replayed in slow motion. Sleepless nights of planning, then the moment of execution. Faces falling silent. Truth landing clean. Consequences unfolding without cruelty. Each image reinforces the lesson without saying another word. I lean forward slightly. Respect wisdom, I say, especially when it sounds inconvenient, especially when it feels old-fashioned. I pause, letting the weight of that challenge settle where it belongs, with the viewer. My voice softens at the end. Justice feels different when it's done right, I say. It doesn't leave blood on your hands, it leaves clarity. I don't smile yet. I don't need to. Then, almost gently, I add, if you've ever been ignored, underestimated, or dismissed, remember this. I look straight through the lens. Your quiet strength is your power. The camera holds on my eyes, reflective, steady. A faint smile appears, not of victory, but of vindication earned. The screen fades slowly, leaving tension in the silence, and an unspoken invitation for others to tell the stories they've been carrying alone.